It's time for Talkward, Cringeworthy Tales. And now, your host, weekly humorist, editor-in-chief, Marty Dundix.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Talkward. I'm Marty Dundix, editor-in-chief of Weekly Humorist magazine, and this is Talkward, a fun little podcast where professionally funny people come to tell awkward and cringeworthy stories. I hope everyone's having a wonderful summer. I've been roasting away here in Park Slope, Brooklyn, and I think maybe my guest today has been roasting also on the East Coast. It's hilarious comedy writer Justin Avery Smith. Hello, how are you doing? Thank you for being on Talkward.
Yeah, I'm very glad to be here. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I am good. It's been a nice summer. I've been getting some stuff done. I feel like it's kind of a lackadaisical. Like, I feel like I haven't been doing stuff as diligently as maybe I keep a schedule when it's like colder and grosser out. When it's really nice out or too hot out, I don't work as hard, I think. I guess it's just like maybe I never got out of that summer vacation mode as a kid. Like, I'm a man-child, I think, is safe to say. and the schedule of I'm going to stop working in June and then I'll go back to work at the beginning of September. I feel like that has never not been the case with me.
Yeah, no,
I do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's kind of since, millions of us grew up in that system, we're all just kind of like indoctrinated, I guess you could say, or conditioned in some way or another to think like that. I mean, I've always found summers to be a weirdly like transformative time for me. It's almost kind of like the only like comparison I can do off the top of my head is the way like my mother would describe the way soap opera episodes play out, where it's like the last episode, the first half of the episode is like resolving the storylines from the last episode, and then the second half is like setting up the storylines for the next episode. That's kind of what it feels like for you. Like the first half of any year is just kind of like reaping what I sowed from the end of that year, and then it's
very true.
Kind of, I like think myself
as a TV nut that I am, and I think that you're a pop culture TV person too. Like our entire like the way we think about time, like linear time, is dictated by the way that a TV season goes. And it's like, at least in the old days, TV seasons would be fall schedule, new shows, and then like 22 episodes of network television, and that would end of May sweeps, big finale. And then we all took a breather from our big time shows, June, July, and August. We kind of got time off. We didn't have to pay attention to what was going on in television. Yeah. We could go look at the clouds and have big ideas and then come back in September and be raring to go. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's kind of like, I don't try to do that during the summer, but it just happens. Like you can't not decide, like June, July, August become 1 month of just like this metamorphosis, fun, happy, I'm going to go do stuff time. And then you get back into this, which is interesting because now I talk to like my nieces and nephews are in school and, they keep staying in school later in June and then they go back earlier in August. And the kids these days, their summer is like a month and a half of like freedom-ish, but then they're just in these scheduled camps the entire time. So it's not really that sort of freedom that I used to have, where I would just wander around and just play on my bike. You grew up in Massachusetts?
Yes, I'm still there, like, right now. Like, I remember, like, at least when I was, in high school, it was always, like, the teen summer theater camps. I say camps. It's not like we, lived in cabins and, slept in bunks or something. We literally just, went to a theater, it was a normal, thing. I mean, there was one that was kind of like an 8-hour, where it's, the first 4 hours were, theater class.
Yeah, it would be like a day camp. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it was kind of like that. I mean, I don't remember, before that, I'm pretty sure it was just kind of you go on vacation or you go on, we would go on trips. And sometimes, when you get the week off in Christmas or New Year, that whole one, or you would maybe go on a trip or spring break. I mean, I never did the break. I mean, I was not, I was either raised in, I'm just not that kind of person anyway. But summer's always been that kind of almost weird, for want of a better term, fuck around and find out.
Yeah. I think maybe the thing that's different now that I enjoyed as a kid is it was just this time of possibility where like anything could happen, you know? And I didn't really have plans. I wasn't big on plans and things like that. And then as time went on, I feel like parents became much more involved with their children's day-to-day lives when they were young, a lot of helicopter parenting and that kind of stuff. So the kids were very scheduled all the time for, you know, the planned fun. But when I was kind of like, you know, a bit of a latchkey kid. I think a lot of kids in the 80s and 90s were. It was a lot, I don't know, much more disconnected. We would just bike around and we would come home when the street lights came on. And that was sort of like what summer was, which was a magical time of just like playing and talking with your friends and having deep philosophical. I knew I would get there. Philosophical discussions about life, but you're like, you know, in 5th grade, and you're having these deep discussions. So it was fun. I used to love it. I rushed through your introduction because I was so eager to talk to you, but I wanted to back up and say, you're based in Massachusetts. You write for the Whole Wheat Post. You write for Mcsweeney, Slackjaw, RobotButt, Points and Case, Weekly Humorist, Greener Pastures.
Yeah.
A lot of comedy writing you've been doing there, just Avery Smith.
Thank you. I mean, you know, it's like,
and you're a young guy. How old are you?
I'm gonna be 28 in September.
28? I thought you were like, you look like you're 19. Just
yeah, I look 35. Actually, I kid you not. I was at a convention this past weekend, and while I was waiting in line, it was a Terrificon, and it was at Mohegan Sun, like hotel casino.
Oh, I want to talk all about the Comic-Con things that you do and the fandom and the pop culture stuff. We're going to talk all about that. So tell me about what happened.
Okay, yeah. Oh, so I was in line with I was in line to get an autograph with Rebecca Romaine and
nice, Rebecca Romaine.
Yeah, exactly. Which I know. I also think I'm probably like one of the few weirdos. I think I'm one I live in the one household in America that is most familiar or knows her mostly from her work on Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, which is airing new episodes in the summer right now. Which not until we had this discussion did I realize, oh, it's so weird that I'm watching a show have weekly episodes premiere in June and July, and now August. I literally watched one earlier this morning before we hopped on here. It was a musical episode, and I freaking loved it. I did a big dumb smile on my face the whole time, and if I'm gonna restart it the sooner moment, but that's beside the point. But I was in line with I was just talking with a nice couple. It was an older couple, and at one point I think it was the father was trying to me. It's oh yeah, and I wasn't gonna tell him because I wanted to hear his guess. He went 18. Yeah, I was 27 going.
That's good. Hold on to that. You know, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. The skin routines. I'm now at the age where, on Instagram, I'm getting very targeted ads for all the things that are, when you become old, everyone wants to be young. So the current thing I'm seeing a ton of is the facial yoga, where you have to push on your face every day like this, and you go like this, and you go and it's a routine of literally this is what you do. You
mean the thing? Oh my god! You mean the thing? This. You mean the thing people will usually do whenever they're frustrated or exasperated? Just go
try to pull your skin off of your face, and that is the exercise you have to do to look young and youthful. You have to pinch your face fat and push it backwards and stuff like that. And I get that a lot. They must really think I need it.
I know. Have they seen Poltergeist?
I don't know.
Because that's also what it makes me think of is when he starts picking, then it all just starts falling off.
It just starts falling off. I was never. Are you a horror movie person, Justin?
I mean, it's weird. I'm not. It's definitely not my first go-to genre. It's weird. I can almost appreciate it from a distant. So because I really
was never a horror. I was always so terrified of the horror movies. I would watch them and then be so terrified, like a Poltergeist or the really. You'd go to the old video rental places, like the Arrows or the Blockbuster videos. And as a kid, I would go in and I would love going to the section and looking at the tape cover because it was terrifying. And I'd be like, oh my God, this is so scary. And then I would never watch it because it was too old for me. But as I've gotten older, I'm a big comedy person. So I always like comedy movies. But some of the horror comedy that has come out in the past 10 years, very, very funny stuff. It's horror, but it's slasher gore that it's funny. So it's so over the top gore that it's not scary. It's more funny and terrible.
Yeah, it's that Sam.
Good.
Yeah, it's those Evil Dead,
exactly.
Raimi. ones.
Exactly.
Honestly, like I actually haven't seen any of those, but I've seen like clips of them. And I think one of my favorite exchanges ever in like movie history is like that one at the end of like the 2013 one when it's like that demon girl who looks like the girl from The Ring who goes like, and then she just revs up the chainsaw and goes, "Face on this motherfucker."
Yeah, it's great. They have great taglines. Like it's really silly. It's weird, crazy, effects. I enjoy it very much. Also, something that I've gotten into that I know that you're into, so I do want to talk about it. Is I have a ton of, this is my midlife crisis corner, I think you can see in the back here. So it's all of my junk,
Yeah.
I got my proton pack for some reason. And this was a great, so many nerds are ghost heads, and they're really into the Ghostbusters for all the different cons. But then also, I've got, what else do I have here?
I see Marvin the Martian. I had that, the hoverboard. Oh my God, I love that.
I have my hoverboard, but this is why I thought of you.
Oh, Lord. Indiana Jones. Oh, my.
This is my Indiana Jones stuff.
Oh, hey. You're doing.
I got my fedora with it's pretty high crown. So I've noticed you're a bit of a cosplayer.
Yeah, I mean,
cosplaying.
Yeah, I mean, I do it both I do it for myself and also, like, fun. And also because, I don't know, people online seem to like it. So you give the people what they want. That's what you do in showbiz.
It is fun, though. So what characters do you like? Have you always liked to dress up as movie fun characters? And I know that I feel like cosplaying has become a really huge thing in the past, maybe 10 years, much more. When I was in middle school, I remember I would be at home on a weekend and I would spend the entire afternoon putting together the perfect Indiana Jones costume and just walking around the house alone, looking in the mirror and being like, but then I would never go out. I would never wear it out. I would just be like looking and then be like, okay, I'm gonna put everything away and never talk about this again. Or I would do that with others. So I bought this jacket. It's not like an Indiana. I don't know. You bought a pretty authentic Indiana Jones jacket because as I was looking up things, this jacket gets very hot.
But that's one thing I always remember where it's like, okay, he's like in the middle of like the Brazilian jungle. Like there's no way like,
he'd be sweating bullets in that jacket.
Yeah,
he'd be sweating, Joe. But also, if you watch the movies, like the jacket comes off pretty quick. At least in Temple of Doom, it gets pretty ripped up. But when you start actually looking at the cosplaying stuff, and you start going down the rabbit hole of authentic prop, have you done that? Like, you're a huge Star Trek fan, you're an Indiana Jones fan. What are your fandom things that you're into? Like, what do you collect, and when did it start, and why did you get into it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, anything that makes me feel like I'm either living in the world, either as the character or as the person, or something like where I hold it and I feel like I am them or I am like in that world or something like that. It's kind of more about like, it's not like, I gravitate towards just XYZ thing. It's usually just like, like I said, just go on, you go on Touch or something like that. It's a very like, I guess you could say almost like a consumerist Marie Kondo, I guess you could call it, where it's just like
what brings joy exactly? What sparks joy? Like it's like such interesting little things, and when you start looking up like, I want an Indiana Jones fedora. It's like it's not just a fedora. There are so many things that make it an Indiana Jones fedora that you have to look up, and then you go down this rabbit hole of like the history of this hat and who made it, and it was like Herbert Johnson hatters in England made this hat, and they like it has to be like this high of a crown, and it has to be this kind of a point, all this stuff, and all these places make these hats, and they're very expensive.
God, yeah, definitely. I mean, I definitely try to like toe the line with budgeting, where it's just kind of like, I mean, I'm not gonna like, it's $400, like even if I
the hats are $400. Maybe more.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even if I am just lucky enough to happen to have $400 in my bank account, I'm still like, I am not going to zero or close to zero over a hat.
Yeah. Yeah. That you can wear like to like 2 things a year.
Yeah, exactly. Like I want to be something that is at least close in price to like normal clothes. So that way, because I think that's the other thing for me where like it has to be somewhat of like maybe I could, cheat. So I get, for one better term, and be like, I can wear this on the street, and people will just, and it's almost kind of like remind them of this, or like if or but it's like in my mind, I know what it is, and so that's enough for me. That's right.
And the leather jacket's also very specific because I spent forever looking for a leather jacket that was a normal leather jacket that actually had the same straight cut. So where did you get your leather jacket? Because there's a lot of places to find a leather jacket that's an Indiana Jones leather jacket.
Okay. I lucked out with that one because it was a Christmas gift. Nice.
Because if you try to get the authentic, it's like Wested leather, and it's like, but I mean, they're not crazy. They're like, $200 for like but I mean, like a nice leather jacket's gonna go about that anyway. So, but they have all these specific, and you can get them distressed. You can get them like wrecked, so that they look like they were in the jungle and stuff. It's I mean, you really can go down such a rabbit hole. When I was growing up, we didn't have the amount of places to look for things. So the internet was like invented when I was in college. So I didn't have the time to waste to constantly be looking at all these things, all the places. And now it's just like nonstop things to do and buy and crap that you go on Etsy and you start just wasting money on Etsy. It's like so addictive to just like, ooh, I want this one sticker, or I want this one thing that this guy is making. And it adds up,
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I got the shirt I'm wearing right now on Etsy, which is, if you can tell, it's a Harry Potter one with like the pink for like.
That's nice.
Solidarity support,
Etsy, right? Like you can buy anything there. People are making it. I got a couple of things for this silly proton pack I got, and they're like 3D printed parts, which I was totally blown away with the fact that you can do these things with 3D printers now. You get something, and I spent all weekend sanding this one thing so it looked smooth and perfect, and it looks amazing. I can't believe it. So now I'm like, I want to buy a 3D printer, and I want to print weird shit and make it myself, but it's just going to keep piling up here in this tiny little office of mine, Justin. So I had to stop at some point. So what are the kind of hobbies? So you're a comedy writer. You're writing. You want to write books. You write scripts. I saw you have some scripts.
Yeah.
So other than, do you want to? I mean, it seems like a fun niche to write in is fantasy and sci-fi.
Oh, I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think simply because of that, like detachment or that sort of thing, that classic of like, you can take like really big, heavy issues, but then literally like you just put it in a galaxy far, far away, or like, once upon a time, and then it's suddenly it's kind of like, oh, our Blizzard brains just go, oh, well, it's completely different. That it's nothing like us. But then that kind of gives you like that more like detachment or like objectivity.
And that's what even the original Star Trek was so good at doing, was commenting on current events and social issues in a sci-fi environment using actual aliens and actual other galaxies, and making decisions that were actually comments on race relations and inequality and all these things. And it was doing it in the 60s in an incredibly modern, progressive way, in a really amazing, it was like amazing storytelling, wonderful characters, but it was also very progressive in its messaging, right?
Yeah.
Even like way back then, and it had a huge fan base, obviously. Star Trek, God, it's huge. And it was able to do things so early.
Yeah.
Oh, also very interesting, the reason why Star Trek made it on the air, Lucille Ball.
Yeah,
which I think is amazing, right? Like, Desilu Productions was the company that took a chance on this show by Gene Roddenberry had taken it all of these places, and he had struck it out everywhere. Nobody wanted this show. And then Lucille Ball was like, I'll take that show. And she produced it. Amazing.
Yeah, I've seen people at conventions wearing like Desilu Productions t-shirts before I could do that. I honestly believe her name should be just as synonymous with it as Gene Roddenberry is, which even then, I think if you look into Gene Roddenberry, he's actually kind of a bit of a, like, he's a bit egotistical, like he likes to have his name on things. So I think even his like association or in his involvement is greatly overblown. He's like, he just gets a immense pleasure out of just seeing, created by Gene Roddenberry or whatever.
Yeah. And so many spin-offs. Like, Star Trek has been able to hold on to this world in such a good way, like, crew after crew after crew in this world of Star Trek can exist. Like, you don't have to have, two main characters carry the franchise. It's just the world, like Star Wars has been good at that, but they keep on having to kind of come back to the same, like, 6 people to make it work. But with Star Trek, you don't need James T. Kirk for Next Generation to be popular. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
and even like the Below Deck show is very popular. Like all these shows can live in this world, even in an animated environment, and they still work.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I feel like I have to. There was Star Trek Prodigy, which I'm hoping to God gets saved after Paramount tried to wipe it from existence, and that's the show I wish I had like growing up, because it also like airing whatever on Nickelodeon, and it's like, when I was growing up, it was honestly like, I think it was Enterprise, and that was like it. And how many second graders in 2003 do you think wanted to dissect the latest episode of Enterprise, and would get punished by like going to bed without being able to watch it or something like that? Like very niche like childhood memories for me.
Have you tried writing any spec scripts? I know you wrote a Harry Potter book based in that world. Have you tried to do any writing in the Star Trek environment, like reimagining a new crew or a new anything
Yeah, it's definitely like it's something I've like dabbled in. I haven't like done anything. Like one of the things in the first convention I ever went to, which was in Long Island back in May, I met like a whole bunch of Trek authors who did a bunch of different either tie-in books or novelizations of episodes, or somebody who did like this one dude I love it, if anyway, Rob Perlman, who did like a bunch of kids books. Like there was like Fun with Kirk and Spock, which was like Fun with Dick and Jane, but it was Kirk and Spock, which I thought was just really cool. But and it turns out there's Trek Explorer magazine, which has a bunch of I don't know why I said kids, bunch of kinds of short stories that sometimes that they pitch and they get published. I actually pitched one like a month or two back. I haven't heard back, but
that's great. So there's a magazine for Star Trek people that publishes like fan fiction?
I think so. Or like, these are people who, like I said, have also done like done other Trek. So they have like a track record, so to speak. I mean, I know way back when the original series was in jeopardy, that was like one of the things that helped salvage it, was like fan magazines or other literary journals that had you publishing what was called like slash fiction, which from my understanding is also a lot of it was like Kirk and Spock, romance slash fiction, but that was in part what helped. I mean, it's one of those things that's weirdly like it's non-canon, but I think it's called fanon when it's never officially canonized, but the fans agree it's canon, which is basically that Kirk and Spock are like, depending on how you look at it, either just more than friends, maybe even lovers, but that's like a whole
That's that's an alternative. This could mean a whole new thing if they were having a secret relationship.
Oh, definitely. I mean,
who knows where those fingers are going?
oh God. I hope. Which I also know. Like, something I recently learned is that this is actually a Jewish thing. It's a Jewish symbol.
I did not know that.
Yeah, apparently, like, Leonard Nimoy got the idea because he went to temple as a kid, and apparently I'm not Jewish, so I never grew, but apparently there's a ceremony that's meant to be like heard but not seen, but kids are rebellious and curious, so he like looked up, and the minister or the rabbi or whoever was like doing this, which I guess apparently is a Hebrew letter, but he was making it with his hand, and and he was like, and it does fit because I always thought this meant like V for Vulcan. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but and then
I would think it meant V for Vulcan, but it could have had another meaning that they took it from. You never know. I like the idea of fanon instead of canon, though. I think that's very interesting. Because those online boards, do you visit the online fandom.com type boards that talk about all the different characters, and people get really into the weeds on this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely will regularly check like Reddit threads of either Harry Potter or Star Trek or other type things, and sometimes people will either ask questions, whether it's like what if or what do you think, or just trying to clarify something, and sometimes they offer very interesting answers or very interesting takes, but it's definitely and sometimes people will just say, oh, this is my head canon, which I think is something where it's like it's something that's canon in my head that people will share. Like one for me personally is that the fat lady who guards Gryffindor Tower in Hogwarts is either Godric Gryffindor's mother or sister, Golda Gryffindor, and she helped. She knew Helga Hufflepuff, and that's how they both became friends and also bonded over like food and that sort of thing. And so I think it's just kind of like who better to guard my tower than my own mother or my own sister. It's like honor her memory, which I don't know, like, I mean, it's already been canonized that they used to like shit in the hallways and vanish it. So anything's possible.
Okay, anything's possible. Interesting. Interesting with the canon. And now are they doing more Harry Potter stuff now? Wasn't she writing something new, or someone was writing something new?
Yeah, well, first there was the Fantastic Beasts movie.
Fantastic Beasts, right?
Yeah, and then there was, I mean, before the strike, Warner Bros. Discovery was announced a like reboot, which was going to be like a TV show that retold all 7 books, which has been, and they have a 10-year plan, and which was met with like cautious optimism and like, this is bullshit. That's been the diaspora of the reaction, which, I mean, I think it's it's completely redundant to me because
it is redundant. I feel like if you're a fan, it's like, I don't want to see the same thing redone. I want to see you make new stories using the world I like. You know, I think people are always their executives are always so like, let's just reboot this. And it's like, no, not because if fans like something, they like it. Just make a new thing that they also will like. You don't have to ruin the story for us. You just have to keep making that story, telling it with new characters, but make it authentic to the original source material. People are so strange with how they try to like destroy things.
Yeah. You see it all the time with like Star Wars. I feel like that it's going through that weird thing right now where I'm going to be honest, like I'm not sure if it's canon, but it's my headcanon. That episode 9, the canon episode 9 is actually a rejected script written by Jurassic World's Colin Trevorrow and Derek Connolly, who they did like a completely different one that honestly I think is like, it's like the definitive conclusion, which I think the PDF of the script is online. I'd encourage everyone to check it out because it, deals with like, it carries the mantle from Last Jedi but also like resolves a lot of those things without just being like, oh no, never mind, Palpatine's back and Rey was a Palpatine and Chewie died, oh no wait he didn't, and all that.
I think I need to rewatch that movie. I watched that movie in the theater, and it just kind of ended, and I feel like I don't remember how it ended.
Yeah, but see, that's the other thing where it's kind of like it. I mean, maybe if J.J. Abrams had been like on all 3 movies, it would have been. But it feels like they're trying to cram, 2 movies worth of story and content because it's just like bam, 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 bam. Which I actually prefer from like a audience standpoint. I like when things are just like 1, 2, 3, but also the story and plot points have to be decent.
Yeah. I like it when they shoot sequels and even the third epic when they shot them in succession, because now they seem to be much more efficient at doing that. And like with Indiana Jones, there's like 20 years in between each movie, which totally sucks, and they could have made them every other year if they really wanted to. And they didn't. But then you start learning why they didn't, and you start like reading all of the failed scripts that they actually had that didn't go forward because they were terrible and people didn't like them. So it's like they sort of tried, and then they didn't try really that hard. I feel like they made it a trilogy, and they were just like, we'll just leave it. And then they were like, you know what? We want to make more money, so we're gonna make it.
Yeah.
And because I read all those books, there's actually a ton of paperback books that were written by this guy named Rob McGregor. And there's a whole series of Indiana Jones books that I read as like a teenager that are great. Like they're great. They're like him a little, maybe it's like before Temple of Doom. He is like a young professor. It's not young Indiana Jones Chronicles, but it's like he's like starting his adventures and stuff, and he's getting into all kinds of trouble and stuff. And those were actually good books that they could have turned into movies. But I don't know why, but they didn't. A lot of them had to do with like druids and Stonehenge and all kinds of interesting things.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, like there's been like quite a few interesting video game takes as well. I saw there was a Lucas Arts who did like a lot of point click. They did an Indiana Jones one that I actually found online and played, which I thought was like really. It felt, even though there wasn't like car chases or anything like that, it still felt like an Indiana Jones movie to me, with just because I think it's the Nazis and he's trying to like find Atlantis, and which I think is all very Indiana Jones, and they clearly just, I'm not sure who worked on, but they just caught it.
Yeah, that's, I think like with at least with like the Ghostbusters world that didn't get their Ghostbusters 3 for a long, long time, they actually made a movie called Ghostbusters, or a video game called Ghostbusters Spirit Unleashed, and it actually has all of the cast members are in it doing the voices, and there's sort of a plot. and you play the game, and everyone came back to do the voices, and this was in like 2010, 2011 or something. I don't have any video game console to play any of these games on. I'm working on that. I found my Sega Master System, but it doesn't play any of the games. Justin Avery Smith, it doesn't do anything. I don't even have the controllers for it. I'm trying to figure out how to get that to work. Do you play video games?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Like, I mean, one of the first characters I ever cosplayed was
Laura Croft. Now, I noticed that, and I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen the new Indiana Jones yet because I was supposed to go on Tuesday, and my plans fell through. But you commented that it was a remake of Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
Now, why do you feel that?
So there's a lot of similar plot points, and since you haven't seen it, I'll try to keep it as vague and like as specific as possible. But there are a lot of...
Is Harrison Ford wearing hot pants?
Maybe. I mean, you'll have to see it to find out. But
he could pull it off. He could pull it off.
I mean, I will say it doesn't open with him fighting a robot, but like the Angelina Jolie movie does. But but it's very similar where it's like you've got like both. This isn't a huge, but both Daniel Craig's character in that movie, which also it's very weird to watch a pre-James Bond Daniel Craig trying an American accent because it sounds almost like Midwestern or Canadian at times.
Yeah.
But it's no oh God, I'm blanking on his name. Benoit Blanc, the Knives Out guy.
Benoit Blanc.
Yeah, Benoit Blanc. It's not that, but anyway, but he's like in it for the money, and that's kind of what Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character is as well. Like they're both like in it for the money, and in both one, the like MacGuffin in question, they're trying to find like two halves of it, and both MacGuffins revolve around like giving you like making you like a god, giving you like the power of space and time and that sort of thing. And both characters are trying to like reconcile with loved ones that they've lost, and and I swear to God, there was like a moment where I thought one of them was going to say a line that Angelina Jolie says in that movie, where she says, "They're like, okay, I need you to get the piece so I can steal it from you later." Or like, I swear to God, I don't even know which one, but they were like this close to saying it. But, which just reminded me of that. And they talked about planetary alignments, which in the Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider movie, like there's this thing called the Triangle of Light that's powered from the Illuminati, that's powered by like apparently the planets perfectly aligning, which happens every 5,000 years, which A, doesn't happen every 5,000 years, B, doesn't happen at all because the planets aren't a straight line, so that's bullshit. But at least they do a better job in this movie of like, I think Indy said something where it's like Archimedes realized, because Archimedes is the one who made the dial, and they realized that the planets weren't perfectly aligned or something like that, which I'm not sure if it was the intention of the writers to do that, but I mean, also, but I think those are just some of the ones that kind of leaked out. It's
interesting how as we age and consume media, we watch things that we were like, I think I've seen this before. It's like we keep telling the same stories over and over again. Like someone maybe pitches something or writes a script or rewrites a script, or someone comes in to punch up the script, and they keep on adding stuff that maybe they're influenced by. Maybe they don't consciously mean to do it, but we're like putting the same jokes or comments into things. Like I'll watch something. Like I was watching something for a new show on Peacock, and the guy says that he's describing himself as devilishly handsome, and I'm like, that's just a line from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Right? Like she's describing him in the restaurant. He's like, can you describe him, please? And he's like, oh, about 5'10", white leather jacket, devilishly handsome. And he's like, oh, go on. And then it was in the mood. I was just like, that's just a Ferris Bueller's Day Off line, but maybe it's not. Maybe John Hughes took it from somewhere else that said, like where did the term devilishly handsome come from? Who originated this idea? Because the longer we consume media, we realize that everything is just derivative of something else that was made another earlier time too. I don't know. Yeah. It's hard to be original, I feel like. And let's loop this back to comedy writing. How do you come up with original ideas in your comedy writing? And what's your process for comedy writing?
I mean, honestly, it's just kind of my own experiences and observations, like not trying to look too externally at anything. I generally, like, most of my evergreen like humor pieces are usually just me taking something that's happened. Most of my humor pieces are evergreen anyway. I tried, there was a phase where like I tried for like a few weeks or a month to like submit timely pitches to Mcsweeney. They all got rejected for various reasons, and but I've had more success in the evergreen part. And timely
stuff is so hard two reasons. It's hard to get through to get it in front of the right person quick enough. And then also it's not great for the publication because it is out of style so quickly, like it's funny for like 2 days because our media cycle has just gotten faster and faster and faster. Yeah. So it's like, oh, this is really funny for like the next hour and a half. And then something new is going to happen and everyone's attention is going to be gone. So I like, personally for Weekly Humorist, I love evergreen humor. I love evergreen stuff, absurdist stuff, random stuff that's just like funny, but it's not necessarily political or news related. It can just be funny and it can stand on its own, and it can be funny in a year. It can be funny in 3 years. I can, print it in the magazine. Someone could read it and it'd be like, oh, this is hilarious, or it can go into a collection and be like, oh, this is hilarious, And that's also, just to get back to absurdist stuff, we lost Paul Rubens, who was an amazing comedy god and just absolute genius with Pee Wee Herman. And he was such an influential character in so many people's comedic upbringing because his character and his world that he created at Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse is just, it's just completely absurd, right? It was just like this silly, crazy, insane world that he made where it was evergreen. Like his stuff is so, it can live forever in media, and people can always revisit and watch it, and it always makes sense because it is living in its own little, vacuum of like the world that he's created, and the kind of humor that is just its own world, which is also like Steve Martin, I feel like does that a lot. Who were your comedy influences that kind of made you the comedy writer that you are?
Oh, geez. Like, this is kind of interesting because I probably didn't decide till like college that I was like, okay, I'll try this comedy thing out. But, like I say, growing up, Mel Brooks is obvious. Like, I mean, Spaceballs was honestly like, I learned a lot of new words in that from like as a kid.
I learned a lot of new words. You went over my helmet?
Yeah, like that. I mean, but like I remember, like I've seen that movie since I was like 6, and I didn't obviously know what he meant. Rick Moranis meant when he said like helmet. I'm just like,
he gets great helmet.
Yeah, even when I was at that convention this past weekend, someone was selling Spaceballs the cutting board. Of course,
Spaceballs the cutting board.
Yeah,
Spaceballs the something.
The coloring book, the flamethrower,
like
they were like, but security wouldn't let us, that we couldn't get past that. But anyway, so that was one. One I've watched, maybe not from like a style standpoint, but just kind of almost like as a, like just kind of resonate with both professionally and personally, is Bill Hader, because of like I don't know, like we both grew up with sports memorabilia in our bedrooms, despite the fact we don't like sports at all. But like, as a kid, my bedroom looked like Jimmy Fallon's in Fever Pitch. If you ever saw that, that was not my choice. We both are not fond of dressing up. I remember once he was on like Kimmel or something like that, and he said like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna assume this is like being sunburned." That's pretty much like what it is. Someone says, "Oh, you're looking fancy and snappy." I'm just like, "Don't patronize me." And so that, but also, I know he wanted to be a filmmaker. I was a film buff like growing up, and suddenly he just finds himself doing this improv thing, and something he's on SNL. It's like, oh, who knew? So I relate to that. Obviously, I love Barry.
Barry's such a good show, and it just wrapped up, and man, that show was a roller coaster of just extreme. Right, it's an extreme show. It was really funny, but like it's so violent, but such good characters and such amazing stories, and it was just like really a lot. It was like it was deep. It had a lot of depth. Those characters had a lot going on, and it was such a big swing for him creatively to do this show because it was so much. There was so much going on, and I love Hank. Oh, I love. Is it West Hollywood Hank? Hollywood Hank?
Oh yeah, I think that's.
What did he call himself?
I think West Hollywood. I feel
Hollywood Hank. But he is great. Like just everything about Hank is such a fun character, and his clothes and everything about his attitude. And he's like this, mobster, and he falls in love with the other, drug smuggling. I can't remember where he was from, like, but Bolivia or something, or the other family that he was, and he was very Romeo and Juliet for the two different families. It was so good. He was such a good character, but he was also such a good gay character. But they didn't make it about it was a really subtle thing when you can, I like it when they were able to build up characters and their sexuality isn't like a
primary,
token.
it's not like their primary.
Yeah, it's not like a token thing, right? It's not tokenism where it's like, oh, we're going to make this the gay character. It was just like, he's a character who happens to be gay and this is part of his storyline, but it's not done in a way that it's like trying to make it, oh, we're checking a box, which is a lot like how Schitt's Creek kind of did it too. Like, the son was gay, but it wasn't like the primary focus of the whole thing. It was just a story, and it was done in such a normal love story way that I think that show really resonated with people because it was so honest and creative. And you know what I mean? I really like the way that more and more characters and storytelling is making all the characters kind of equal in their representation. It's not just like we're going to have one gay character and that's going to be our thing. It's more like they're able to have really good characters and some happen to be gay and some happen to not be gay. And it's not like a thing to make it, I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like that's something that's happening more and more in a positive way.
Yeah, I mean, I know it can be very like, if you can be like self-deprecating or like make it tongue-in-cheek, like that makes you think of like, on 30 Rock, there was Twofer, which obviously because he was both black and gay, so that's why he was called Twofer. And, like there was that joke on Parks and Rec about like Tom, like not being from around here. He was born in South Carolina, not Indiana. Like that was
right.
His wife, his white wife was the immigrant because she was Canadian.
Right.
I believe, like, like, so it can be done like but like say, as long as you don't make it just like makes it's their whole trait where it's like, at least like in live action, because I mean, it's been, more heavily scrutinized recently, but like The Simpsons, where I guess you could argue almost on The Simpsons, every single character is kind of like,
it's a stereotype because they're cartoons, like they're two-dimensional characters. So, The Simpsons, I get for them being, this one's this one, this one's this one, this one's this one. They have less depth because they are cartoons.
Yeah,
which I'll let them. I'll allow cartoon. Oh, something else I wanted to mention is you like sci-fi, a show that I think is really a great sci-fi show, and it got more and more of a sci-fi and less of a comedy, but it's really excellent, is The Orville.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of great. I haven't seen it, but I heard like
you will really like The Orville. It is on Hulu, and it is a couple of seasons, and then for the third season, it became more like mini movies. They did like 6 mini movies, and it's like good adventure, very good sci-fi. I really enjoy the characters, but it is funny. So it's like a comedy in the world of sci-fi without being too over the top. Though the first season is much more of a comedy than it is a sci-fi, and then they changed it for the second season. They actually got more of a sci-fi show with a comedy angle. Like they kind of made it less harsh.
Yeah, that's so crazy. I think probably even more than he intended, Seth MacFarlane was very much mirroring his love of Trek, because people will tell you, until like me recently, the first 1 or 2 seasons of a new Trek show were always kind of like the first pancake. You had to just like throw them out, and like then it's like you have to wait till season 2 or 3 before it gets. And I don't think that's ever the intention of even the people buying the Trek, but that just seems to be how it works out with these things.
Yeah, that's how it is with a lot of TV shows. That like Seinfeld really wasn't good until like the 3rd season. It didn't really catch on and find its rhythm. Same with Cheers, didn't really catch on till like the 3rd, maybe the late 2nd season. But shows today on television are not given that time to get good. They're like, they get 2 or 3 episodes. They're like, no, kill it. Now pull it. And then you never see that show again. But not that it was a good idea. They just didn't find the audience fast enough in this world of like a million channels. Very difficult to hold an audience in this world.
No, definitely. I mean, also you have executive, bean counters making like snap decisions, just being like, they don't like it. Because I mean, I remember like the big joke when Netflix announced they were going to be opening that BS restaurant was that like all the food, like your order is going to be taken away before you're done with it, basically, because they always like cancel shows in their prime unless you're like Stranger Things or Orange is the New Black. Unless you're like one of those, you're pretty much like, it's a dice roll to have your show on Netflix. It always has been. Like
it's sick of it. It seems like they'll take a whole bunch of money, they'll get a bunch of shows, a bunch of people will like those shows, and then they'll arbitrarily be like, "No, we're not renewing any of these shows. We have new shows." And you're like, "But I really like this show. I'm now invested in these characters. I just spent 7 hours of my day watching all of this programming." I find it very insulting when I give them my time. I watch their stories, and then they're just like, "Oh no, we're just going to kill this entire show, and it's over now. Sorry." And you're like, "But there was no conclusion." You had a funny, embarrassing story that you mentioned about a famous Star Trek person.
Yeah, when I was in line for break at Terrificon, and this is honestly, oh god, I'm having flashbacks. Sorry, but
look at this handsome devil.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's why, like, I kid you not, before I even was in line, I actually went on Friday as well to do quote unquote reconnaissance because I wanted to just see what the layout was and what it would be like, so I wouldn't be completely bombarded and overwhelmed when I went there on Saturday. So I went on Friday.
Who are we looking at for those of those folks at home only listening to this, not seeing the video, just listening to the podcast? Who did I throw up on the screen?
Jonathan Frakes as Commander Riker.
Very handsome actor, beautiful beard.
Yeah,
look at those eyes though. I mean, this guy, bedroom eyes.
Piercing baby blue eyes are just everyone I think it's even popularized the phrase "grow the beard," which is almost like the inverse of "jump the shark," which is shows are allowed to grow the beard anymore.
Grow the beard.
Yeah, imagine a world where a show is canceled before one of the babyface characters is allowed to grow a beard.
So he had a clean-shaven face for how many seasons before he got...
Just the first season.
Okay. So he had a clean-shaven face, and then second season he comes in with his full beard. Yeah. It's almost like a new character.
It's very weird. If especially if you're like me, who not only watched the episodes out of order, but by default, because there's more episodes with bearded Riker than there are without, saw a lot of them with bearded Riker, and then seeing season 1 episodes, it was oh god, it's like he was dubbing for this weird man that I'd never seen before. So, I hear his voice, but it doesn't look like it. But
right,
that's beside the point. But yeah, I was and even when I would just see him at his table, I literally, I kid you not, just went oh fuck.
So you met Commander Riker.
Yeah.
At a con event.
Yeah.
And what did you tell Commander Riker when you met him?
Okay, well, it was first I said, great job directing those old scientists. She was the crossover with Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks, but I think he was too busy signing to hear me. It was a very, I actually, full disclosure, had a Zoom, a 3-minute Zoom with him, at the height of the pandemic, but I would have been very surprised if you remember this, weirdo he talked to for 3 minutes in the biggest shit show of the century.
How did you talk to Commander Riker on Zoom?
It was a virtual con event.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, this was the height of the pandemic. Everything was, virtual. And I just saw, they're offering this, and I thought, okay, this is great, and I did it. And we had a very fun back and forth. And those are things that we were asking each other questions, but it felt very one-sided this time, which I don't know. I mean, to be fair, he's probably traveling, and it was already the afternoon, and he wasn't saying much. And I don't blame him for it. I mean, I don't know what he was going on, because at first I got a picture with him, and then I went around and waited in line to have him sign the picture. And so I say, first, okay, I loved what you did, and he didn't really say anything. And I told him also that sometimes there's a scene in Generations where, long story short, Worf falls into some water because Riker's accidentally said, "Computer, remove the plank instead of retract plank," and he just goes, "Sorry," which we sometimes say that in our house sometimes when someone has to apologize, just go exactly like that.
Sorry.
And then I just, I was "Sorry," and I didn't know how to, this is my first time, and I said, "Fuck it, you only live once." I think that's literally what I said. What the hell? And I said that seeing him on TV was the first time I ever said to myself, "Am I queer?" And he just went, "Really?" And
he perked right up on that one.
Yeah, I know. That's the other thing where I don't know what the hell I was. Almost cut to me almost it's like that scene back in Blazing Saddles after the lady goes up yours to him, and then he's like, "What'd you expect? Make yourself home, Sonny. Marry my daughter." But I don't know, because the fact that he said I was worried he might have interpreted even though everyone knows, I can tell he's like literally like the nicest guy, like the chills, like he's up there with like Henry Winkler, Hugh Jackman, and like being like the most approachable, calm, chill. But for some reason, like I guess maybe because I had gone there and because I wasn't gonna say it, but that was talking in line with some other fans. And they were like, "No, you should say it," because I didn't want to sound too horny on Maine or like as if I might say, "Oh yeah, so if you could just please take me here, take me now, even though your wife's at the adjoining table, that'd be great."
Right.
But yeah, even though I just got embarrassed. I said, "Oh, it was fun," because he appeared in a Star Trek video game that were released earlier. I was like, "Oh, it was fun." So like talk with you, I was like, "Yeah," and I just like walked away, and I was just like, "Oh God, I'm like blackballed, aren't I?" I'm like, he's gonna
you spoke your truth, Justin, and I think that's important.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, like I didn't know, like
that's a good Talkward story. That that had an impact.
Yeah, definitely. Like I mean, because it felt like I don't know. I almost thought, oh, should I go back tomorrow and apologize? But I'm like, no, it's one of those things where like you try to help and
it only makes it worse. Yeah,
I know. That
only makes like I have to come back and tell you again that I'm not crazy. I'm gonna camp out all night till I can tell you that I'm not crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Like I came back, I bought a ticket, I just thought, the only reason I'm here is in hindsight, saying that, I'm even more glad that I didn't go back, because also I was driving to like the furthest part of me in Rhode Island. Connecticut, sorry. First part in Connecticut. Well, it was like an hour or 90 minutes both ways.
Yeah.
Or like 2 or 3 hours. So I was already like, okay, I've done this 2 days in a row. I don't want to do this a third time. So more and more reasons were piling up why I shouldn't do this. And I mean, I was just like, I'm so glad. He's probably forgot about it. I almost kind of equated to, like when you're at a restaurant, the server says, "Enjoy your meal," then you say "you too," and then just like it's all you can think about for the rest of the day. It's like, why did I say that? And you probably
why did I say you too?
Yeah, and you probably think like the server is in like the kitchen laughing like, "Oh, hey, you won't believe what this idiot did." They go home, it's all they're thinking about. They're like getting dressed for bed the next morning, and they're like, "I can't believe they said." But like, in my mind, I'm like, "Oh, he's probably going back to his room," and he's like, "Oh, hey, honey, you won't believe what this one dude." Even though he seemed literally thousands, if not millions.
I think you're right, but then I think you're right about the waiter waiter's not telling his friends about what this idiot customer said. But I will say that I bet Commander Riker mentioned to his wife that a fan came up to me and said that I awoken his sexuality. I think that might be something he might be like, you know what I did? I had an impact on someone in a very positive way.
Okay, see, that's good because, I mean, I remember I pretty much texted other fellow Trekkies. I texted friends who I knew went to conventions. I texted my mother and was just like, "I can't believe what I just did. Like, please tell me this was not a stupid thing. I'm so embarrassed. Please tell me I'm not going to be like," and literally all of them were like, he either like, I'm sure he was flattered. He probably he's probably grateful he said that, or like, "Trust me, you're fine. I've met him. He's cool." And like, and so I'm like, okay, well, all of these people can't be wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Like
I think it was fine and interesting. And if I were in your shoes, what I would have done, and if I was meeting somebody, the person I would have told that to, Helen Slater, the original Supergirl. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the other thing. There's millions of people who've been in film and TV. Like
the first time that you look at someone and you have I have moved into the adolescent I've matured enough to have a sexual thought type person. Like that there's someone for everybody. Everybody has a moment where they look at somebody and they look at them differently, or there's a feeling in them that makes them feel different at some point, right?
Yeah.
I guess that's puberty or maturity or whatever it is. And I don't know what age it was for me, but I remember looking at Helen Slater on TV and being like, "Oh." And I would say, I really like her. She seems nice. I remember telling that Helen, she seems like nice. She's a nice person. I really like that Helen. And now it's like everybody I've ever gone out with, it's like it's usually like they look like Helen Slater.
Oh God. So, oh God, yeah. And I definitely have come to find,
like, do you find yourself looking for people that look like Commander Riker,
or maybe just like older,
a beard
type
person with a beard? Definitely a good thing.
I mean, beard is like, it doesn't have to be maybe as full as his, but like maybe 5 o'clock. I mean, I'm open to anything, just generally. I mean, I'm not even, it doesn't have to be just Riker. It can be, it can be like that.
It could be a Picard. It could be a Picard.
Yeah, no, it could be like that. I mean, this is one thing in hindsight. Maybe I'm glad I didn't ask because also, like I said, there wasn't that back and forth. It felt very one-sided, and so, but like what he thinks about fans. Again, going back to this conversation earlier, that I think it's fanon, or maybe I'm not sure if it's ever been canonized, but that Riker is pansexual because he fell like in love with a non-binary alien, which I mean, like that one would be fine by me as well. And
Yeah.
so, but again, like this was, this is a fan convention, not a, conference on, gender and sexual relations or something. So it would have been very like
Exactly.
weird.
But it's also very interesting because Star Trek has for a long time had different species love interests. Like different alien cultures and people who've got crazy weird tentacles and skin and whatever. But like they're still kind of hot. Like they in sci-fi they kind of can make anything kind of be kind of hot. Like you could have 8 arms and have like a face like an octopus, but they can kind of make it, cut the right way. They're just like, yeah, I can see it.
Yes, yeah,
Maybe.
I guess again, but that's the other thing where for some reason Star Trek has always had this weird like undertone of like it's like just like low enough that you can kind of like overlook it, but this low horny on main energy.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's because they usually cast like conventionally good looking people to wear these very
tight uniforms. Like it's never anybody frumpy. Like no one's ever frumpy in that uniform. It's always, and those are tight uniforms. And if you look at like the real military or the real Space Force for that matter, it's like these uniforms are not as tight. They're not as sexy. They're not as form-fitting. People don't look quite as good in them. I feel like sci-fi would be a lot less popular if, regular people were running around. You hardly see. I mean, no, Picard is bald. You don't really see as many bald people, but he was the lead character, very strong character, and he was bald. So I don't know.
I mean, also to be fair, Patrick Stewart, I think, is one of those few people who actually can like pull it off, where he actually looks better without.
Yeah, he looks great. He looks great bald.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not even like, oh, he's handsome for a bald man. It's like literally just like he looks like this is the best version of his like look, in at least in my opinion.
So to wrap up, tell me about what you have coming out. Do you have any articles pending at the big publications? Are you still submitting? How often do you submit? Like, what's your schedule for banging out content and sending it out to all the editors and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I've really made it almost like a monthly or bi-monthly point of trying to get something the New Yorker to like crack the code on that, because I remember like, early pandemic, I took like all the humor writing courses from Second City with my main teacher was Brooke Preston. So
I love Brooke Preston. She's wonderful. Yeah. Very nice person. Very funny.
Yeah, she's great. So she's been with me from the beginning. And, at first I didn't want to like jump into the New Yorker like right away because I didn't want to like, it's like a really big deal. And I don't want to waste their time or mine by just being like, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing, but please publish this. But anyway, so I did that. And I've got like ADHD brain. I've got like 3 different ones I'm working on at the same time. And it's just kind of a matter of which one am I feeling that day and which one do I like get notes on from like my friends and acquaintances the fastest. And so it's just kind of and the turnaround, because sometimes it's like 3 days, sometimes it's 7, or honestly like credit where it's due, like that girl from The Ring, at least she tells you when to expect it.
Yeah, it's true.
Not like a don't call us, we'll call you. Yeah,
definitely. Like it's so, and it can be so random the way that things come in, at least for Weekly Humorist. Like people can send in, like I'll get a ton of things. Some things I'll mark as like a yes, and then I'll forget to follow up. So it's like I tell people to follow up with me, and I'm like, you are not bothering me. Follow up with me. It's okay. Like you're not bugging me. I get so many emails. You cannot bug me. Like it's fine. Like I'm not going to be not bugged today by somebody. So just jump on. And the people that follow up, it's good because I am then reminded of how funny their piece is, and I can make sure I mark it for, in the acceptance folder, and I can schedule and figure out where it's going to go. Or if I missed it and it was timely and I fucked up, like that's totally on me. Like it's not their fault. But that definitely happens too. And what you're really good at is you're good at being tenacious. Like you're like, I want to be a comedy writer. I want to get published. I'm going to keep on banging down people's doors until people publish me. and then I will do more, and I will do more. And I feel like you've really grown as a writer since you started. You know, you've gotten your stuff in all kinds of places. You've been published everywhere. And getting in Mcsweeney's is honestly harder than getting in the New Yorker, I think.
Oh, really? Because I remember, and like, I feel like that happened to me like in legit. I got my acceptance.
They're just making a joke. They're just making a joke with you.
Yeah, so I got the email. I was just like, what? And also,
Monks is like, just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. Which is weird because I submitted it. I didn't submit the piece which was about like a Broadway theater teacher in high school, and I didn't submit to Mcsweeney's first because I didn't think it would be a fit.
Mm-hmm.
And which again shows what I know, but because I didn't think it was maybe as biting or as scathing as some or as quirky as some most Mcsweeney's pieces usually are. That's why I call it the bedsheet principle, which, long story short, there's an episode of Mythbusters. They're trying to get past a motion sensor, and at one point they try a bedsheet, literally just holding up a bedsheet, and they think, oh, this isn't going to work. It's so stupid. It's so goofy looking. And it works. And it was, even though it was on the list of let's just get it over with and fail it, it still ended up like that. That's always also when I have submitted headlines or to other things, it's kind of like, oh, so please submit 3 to 5. It's like, okay, the first 2 are the ones I really want. And then like the next 2 are like just to fill it. And then the filler ones are the ones that they're like, yeah, do that. It's like, what the?
Yeah, exactly. You have no idea where it's going to come. And it's the one that you care less about and kind of thoughtlessly added it at the end, and then that's the idea that's the one, that's the winner, and you're like, damn it, what about the other one? They're like, no, that one sucks.
like I said, but I've already written the other ones in my head.
Yeah,
you want me to like start from scratch? Oh, okay, here we go. You want me to like you want to publish me? Okay.
But the bigger question now, Justin, is tell me about this bed sheet. So you can beat a motion detector by holding a bed sheet in front of it?
Okay, so bear in mind, this is probably like 15, 20 years at this point. But yeah, they were trying to, like, they're testing different, like, methods of, like, evading, breaching security, like in heist movies. And one of the ones is a motion sensor. And, first of all, the one that they seemed to put more effort in and try was Carrie, I want to call it a stealth suit, but at the same time, when she put it on, it was, like, yellow shag carpet, so she looked like Big Bird.
Yeah.
But that didn't work because I thought, the shag will absorb the yeah, exactly. But
so we have so we're talking about a beam of light, like a red.
No, not typical. It's like a sonic wave or something.
Okay.
Like that like it goes and then like it bounces back, and if the bounce gets like disrupted, then it knows that something's there that shouldn't be, and the alarm goes off.
Right.
Yeah, and so they just took a normal bed sheet. Literally, Carrie was just holding it over her head, and they're just walking, and they're all looking at it, and it's like, the alarm's not going off. What the hell? And they tried it like 2 or 3 times to make sure it wasn't just a fluke. She dropped the sheet in the middle while she was holding it in the middle of the hall, and she was like, and the alarm went off. So it's like, no freaking way. And so, like, so just something you could get at Bed Bath & Beyond or any, like...
Was it just a basic white sheet, or was it a black sheet? Was it dark colored or light colored?
Yeah, it was a white sheet. It was like the one you probably have on your bed, like, right now. Like, and didn't make a stealth suit, just held it like it's so simple, so stupid, so goofy, and yet it worked.
That's fascinating. I like that. That's very interesting. That's a good thing to know. Next time I rob the bank, I got to bring the bed sheet with me on the heist.
Mask, no getaway car, just the bed sheet, and you're good.
And you're good. And a pillowcase to put all of the diamonds in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, with the bed sheet, like, after you already have the money, just put it in the bed sheet and turn around, because that way they still won't see your face, and so it's kind of like a all-in-one multi-tool.
It is a multi-tool. Bed sheet.
Oh, God. That'll be FBI.
Me too. We're getting so much trouble, Justin. Okay. Also, thank you so much for playing our ridiculous hashtag games on the now X app. It used to be called Twitter.
Fuck you, I'm still calling it Twitter.
It's still going to be called Twitter forever. But you'd always, because Weekly Humorist plays at 11 a.m. on Fridays, we just play a dumb joke game, and people from all over the world play this dumb game, and they come up with very funny jokes. But you pop up, even 3 years ago or so, you would be playing the game, and Justin Avery Smith would pop up with some of the best jokes all the time, and I appreciate you playing the silly games with us. And it's great to talk to you today, Justin Avery Smith.
It was great to talk to you as well. Like I said,
you're definitely a 3-person full name person. I like saying your entire name.
Thank you very much. Yeah, because I mean, for the longest time since I was like growing up, like from until like college, and like for some reason, just saying Justin Smith didn't like it just A, it didn't sit right with me, and B, when I thought I wanted to be an actor, turns out there was already a Justin Smith who like went by that name. So I was like, okay, I need to set myself apart. It's just like, and I don't want to go through like the stage name or something like that,
Right.
where it's like, okay, so where it's like, okay, so do I have to be like my stage name person, or like Marilyn Monroe versus Norma Jean or something like that? I want to be like, I still want to be me. So
Right.
to just okay, use my full name and end the story. Boom, fun.
Well, it was great to talk to you, everybody. It's and on Twitter and all of the Instagram things. Is it at Justin Avery Smith?
Yeah, it's weird. Like on Twitter, I know it's important to have like accessibility and streaming and streamline your platform, but for some reason Twitter, like Justin Avery Smith was too many. I mean, it's one of two things Musk hasn't fixed, and so that's why I had to be at just a Very Smith. And I did the same thing for TikTok, but on Justin Avery Smith on Instagram and Justin Avery Smith on Threads. So I guess on all the like meta stuff, it's Justin Avery Smith. All the non-meta stuff, just a Very Smith. So maybe it's streamlined.
So are you a TikTok celebrity yet, Justin Avery Smith?
I don't believe so. I mean, I have like 5,000 followers or something like that, but that's not like, but that's not enough to get like to like ask for tips or.
I would say you are a micro influencer at 5.
Very like micro. I mean, like you need a microscope for the microscope.
Maybe a hyper micro. Is that a word?
Yeah, I mean, like what's smaller than an atom? I'm like micro to split the influencer atom. I'm that small.
Okay. We'll come up with a term for that, and that'll be a whole new super niche.
Yeah.
Of TikTok influencing, micro, hyper micro.
But it is weird because you'll see these people, like either people will bring them up or they'll like say, oh, they have like 1 million followers or a view.
Exactly. And they're not, I have no idea where these people are, what they're doing, or if this is a job. It's interesting. It's interesting because it's at some point, everybody can't be famous because famous people need an audience. So if there's no audience, how can anybody be famous?
Oh, it's some sort of, I guess, like, maybe it ends up being like some sort of, is there like an influencer or social fame level? It's the only thing I can think of to equate it to, but like communism or socialism where everyone's just kind of on an even celebrity.
It's like a multi-level marketing scam for fame, right? So you're just like, it's like a Ponzi thing where everybody's sort of feeding some sort of a fame monster. And
a lot of those do. I mean, like they'll say like, oh, you can. And like they might, then they'll say, oh, it's not a pyramid scheme, but it's just like, oh, you want to be part of my life or part of my business, just sell this to someone else. Which, if I'm like, you'd think we know by now. If someone asks you to sell you something to someone else who then sells it, like that, just don't do that. Just stop it.
Just don't do it. Yeah, just don't do it.
Yeah, like I think they did the math. Apparently, after 13 cycles of that, you've exceeded the Earth's population, assuming everyone wants to buy what you're selling.
Exactly. But that brings up a good topic, Justin Avery Smith. I have a great system I'd like to sell you on. You only have to buy in, 14 crates of Weekly Humorist T-shirts, and then you sell your friends the T-shirts, and then they sell their friends the T-shirts. It's going to be great.
Oh, wow. Oh, so I get to be like part of like the Weekly Humorist business? Like, oh my, this is like so... Okay, thank you.
No problem. I'm happy to do it. All you have to do is you pay us so that you can sell it to other people. It's going to be great. We're all going to be so rich, and we're going to be micro, macro influencers in the comedy space. I'm just kidding, Justin.
I thought I was gonna go to the bank. I was gonna get a loan.
When's your next big con?
Probably. Honestly, like there's one I'm probably gonna go to this weekend that's in Boston. It's called like the Fan Expo, and it's got like Henry Winkler and William Shatner and all that.
That's awesome.
Just like, I was like, oh, maybe I'll go. Like honestly, like half the fun I've come to learn is just like the things you don't expect to happen. That like I mean, my first day when I was there in Connecticut on Friday, I ended up talking about Harry Potter ones with a Princess Leia cosplayer, and I was like,
do you dress up like Harry Potter at all, or do you just dress up like Star Trek?
No, I mean actually not as much as I used to, although I did definitely go through a phase when I was like still like in my teens and the movies are still coming out where it was like whatever muggle clothes they were wearing, I was just like, I want to wear that. I want to wear something like that so I can feel like, but also like in like my own way. So like, but like you always see Harry in like a track jack windbreaker with the like a t-shirt, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's my aesthetic now. And I wore glasses at the time, so I was just like, I'm there. I mean, just someone, slice a lightning bolt in my forehead and like, let's steal this.
Yeah, at some point
England.
Can this be not a costume, but just like my normal clothes? There's like a weird spot where you can turn something into something. Though, as much as we probably all want to make it catch on, and I've been trying for years, the fedora does not want to come back.
Yeah, I actually, not when I was like a teen, I also considered like wearing a fedora, and not even like an Indiana Jones one, but like that Frank Sinatra Guys and Dolls type fedora around. But A, we weren't hats in school, and B, shows you what my state of mind was as a teen. I was afraid it would be seen as too edgy or rebellious or too hard to be wearing like, oh God, that troublemaker in the fedora.
Yep. And I always try. I try to get the hat to catch on. When I was in elementary school, I would wear a hat because I saw a movie when I was a kid and the character wore a hat and he was like the cool hero. So I wore a hat and I thought it was cool. And I had to put my hat, I couldn't wear a hat in school, but I had to put it in my little like cubby. And I'd put my hat in my cubby during class, but at recess, I'd wear my hat.
Yeah.
And that was like elementary school. I was the guy that wore a hat. And it's never, and I always wanted to be like a fashion thing that you can do normally. And I'll now and then I'll like casually wear a hat, but it's like, it never worked.
No, I mean,
and I wanted to so much. I have so, like behind me on this, I have like a stack of hats, like really nice, rabbit felt or whatever fedora. And like, I never have an occasion to wear these hats, and I want one. So like, I don't know what time period I wish I lived in. I think maybe the 30s is a good time period. That would have been a fun time around 1955.
I think like 30s to 50s, I feel like is when you really saw a lot of it, which also like, for some reason, all of those like heroes, like in all those like action adventure serials that inspired Indiana Jones, all of those characters wore fedoras as well. Like you see Charlton Heston's character in Secret of the Incas is basically like
the Incas. Yep.
Yeah, it's like a one for one
exactly
from Indiana Jones. Humphrey Bogart in Treasure of Sierra Madre, or anybody, or actually Humphrey Bogart in like all his movies, because whether it be Casablanca or Maltese Falcon, he always wore a fedora. It was either just usually with like a pinstripe suit or trench coat, depending on the movie and the character, or a white tuxedo.
Yeah, people. I mean, clothes used to be so much better back then. We've become so lazy with like what we wear out. Like they used to get so dressed up to just like leave the house to go to the store. You'd be wearing like a 3-piece wool suit and that was it. And like a bowler hat and it was so much more fun. And they had so many layers back then. It was like you had a shirt with a big collar, and then you had your tie that you tied, and then you had a vest that you had to button up, and then you had a coat that you had. Like, it was so many things that protected you. And now it's like I'll wear like a shirt and like stretchy khakis, like 8-way stretch khakis that are basically sweatpants that look like khaki pants.
Yeah, basically
fairly comfortable.
Yeah, no, I think that's another thing. We've come to learn, A, it's more comfortable, it's easier to manage, and B, they also didn't have to deal with, global warming as much in like so they could afford to do it more with like the layers and whatnot. That's why I think I would just add looking like James Dean all the time, where he was just like the jeans and the white t-shirt. Like that would be me pretty much all the time. Like I would be like 40 in that time period. I would still be compared to James Dean, which also would be weird, but you know what I mean.
No, he didn't. I know. Poor James Dean. What a rebel without a cause. Well, this was delightful, Justin Avery Smith. You got to come next time you're in New York. We got to go get a coffee and see a show. I know that we were trying to do that before the pandemic, and because you come down to New York every now and then.
Yeah, I try to get there, wherever I can. It's honestly like, where you and all my other friends are, so it's almost like my second home away from home. I'm really wanting to also pick it alongside all of GA friends, but I just, cannot like carve. I was almost kind of upset when UPS didn't go on strike, because I was like, I just need like a week. That's all I need is a week. And then it was like, oh no, you're actually getting a pay rise.
Damn it, we're getting everything we wanted.
Yeah, I was like, you damn, like it's one of the few times where I was like, Teamsters, probably the same way the UPS, bean counters, where I was just like,
exactly. Well, yeah, but we're very glad. We're very glad that Teamsters got their deal. It's amazing how they're like, oh, they're gonna strike. No, they can't strike. Give them what they want. And I hope that the how quickly they came to a decision shows the studios like, no, not you. If you're making a ton of money and people are like you should pay them. Like it's like the Amazons and the UPSs, they were all making so much money on the backs of the Teamsters and the delivery and all that stuff, and they acknowledged it, and they got the raise. And it's like, now we need the studios to acknowledge it because, with the streaming, they're just not making the money. So it's like the content is very worth it, and we like watching our shows. You like watching your shows. I like watching my shows. I need my stories. So
exactly. But they are going back to the table. I think we said the reports read it. It's like they did invite the.
Yeah. So they're going back on Friday. So hopefully on Friday something will happen because I need my shows. People need the shows.
Yeah. We're filming TV. People we want to have our brethren get there. Because it's great. So many people want that dream job. It's like, I can't even remember now. Someone crushing it must be like, I got my dream job. Oh, I'm not even making more money than I was at my dead end job.
Yeah, exactly.
We need that all need it.
Yes, we do. All right. Well, it's great to chat with you. Everyone go follow Justin Avery Smith on the different platforms and follow his TikTok and read his stuff. What's the next thing that's being published for you out in the ether there?
The next thing that's being published, I honestly, I don't know where it's like, I can't believe I didn't say this earlier because I don't want to jinx it, but knock on wood, I've been doing a trial onion for the onion, a trial run.
Ooh, that's exciting. Good for you. Yeah. Congratulations.
And I won't, exactly. And I won't say anything. I won't say any more than I did get something in and you're supposed to submit I won't say.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I'm sure that when it's out, you'll tell us on the Instagram.
Yeah, he'd be like, if they take me on, believe me, I'm going to be shouting from the rooftops.
All right.
You won't even need to watch our socials. You'll just hear me from the 120 miles.
Well, very good. Well, fingers crossed for that. I look forward to seeing your stuff in the onion. That's very exciting. Thanks for talking today. I really enjoyed talking to you, Justin.
Yeah, I've had a lot of fun. I'm glad I did this. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for listening. Hey, please subscribe on the socials. It's at Talkward Podcast, and please subscribe to Weekly Humorist at Weekly Humorist. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Talkward. Please subscribe, follow us, and visit weeklyhumorist.com.